There's a $5 device you can build in under an hour, using materials from any hardware store that converts sunlight hitting your window into usable electrical current, capable of charging small electronics. Not a trickle, usable current. The National Renewable Energy Laboratory has published decades of peer-reviewed research, confirming that simple photovoltaic cells can generate measurable electricity from ambient indoor light and direct window sunlight. Energy companies and utility providers generate over $400 billion annually in the United States alone. A device that any person can assemble on their kitchen table for the cost of lunch, and that produces free electricity from a resource that hits their window every single day, cannot be allowed to spread into public consciousness. So they buried it behind complex solar installation permits, net metering regulations, and utility interconnection agreements designed to make you believe that capturing solar energy requires professional contractors, licensed electricians, and thousands of dollars in branded rooftop panel systems. They did not bury it because the science fails. They buried it because the science works at a scale small enough that you can do it yourself without asking anyone for permission. This is the story of the window solar cell method that 4 countries have restricted or banned under energy regulations, and the industry that hopes you never build one. Welcome to Camping Decoded. If this kind of knowledge resonates with you, subscribe and ring the bell, because Camping Decoded is where we dismantle the gatekeeping that keeps practical skills locked away from the people who need them most. Let me take you back to where photovoltaic technology actually started. In 1839, a French physicist named Alexandre Edmond Becquerel discovered the photovoltaic effect while experimenting with electrolytic cells. He observed that certain materials produced small amounts of electric current when exposed to light. By 1883, American inventor Charles Fritts constructed the first working solar cell using selenium wafers. The efficiency was less than 1%, but the principle was proven. Light energy could be converted directly into electrical energy without combustion, without moving parts, and without fuel. For the next 70 years, solar cell technology remained a laboratory curiosity with efficiencies too low for practical use. Then in 1954, researchers at Bell Laboratories created the first silicon-based photovoltaic cell with an efficiency of 6%. This was the breakthrough that made solar power viable. By the 1960s, NASA was using solar panels to power satellites in orbit. The technology worked, it was reliable, and it required nothing but sunlight. Here is where the public narrative diverged from the accessible reality. During the 1970s energy crisis, solar power was promoted as a future solution to oil dependency. Governments funded research. Companies began manufacturing panels. But the messaging around solar energy became tightly controlled. The public was told that solar power required large, expensive rooftop installations. You needed permits. You needed professional installers. You needed utility company approval and interconnection agreements. The idea that a person could build a small functional solar cell from basic components and use it to power a lamp charge, a phone, or run a small fan was never part of the consumer-facing conversation. That knowledge stayed in engineering textbooks and hobbyist electronics magazines. It was never banned outright in most countries. It was simply made invisible. However, in 4 specific countries, regulations were introduced that directly restrict or heavily regulate the independent construction and use of off-grid electricity generation devices, including small-scale photovoltaic systems. Germany introduced regulations requiring any electrical generation device, even those under 10 watts, to be registered with regional energy authorities if connected to any building electrical system. France enacted laws that classify homemade electrical generators as potential fire hazards under building safety codes requiring inspection and approval. Australia implemented restrictions in certain states that prohibit off-grid solar systems from being installed on residential properties without licensed electrician involvement, even if the system is entirely independent of the utility grid. In each case, the stated reasoning involves safety standards and grid stability. The unstated outcome is that individuals are prevented from generating their own electricity without entering a regulated permitting system that costs money and requires professional oversight. Here's what the actual science shows. A basic photovoltaic cell works by using semiconductor materials that release electrons when struck by photons from sunlight. Those free electrons flow through a circuit creating direct current electricity. You do not need a massive rooftop array to demonstrate this effect. A single small solar cell measuring 4 inches by 6 inches placed in a south-facing window can generate between half a watt and 2 watts of power in direct sunlight. That is enough to charge a USB device slowly or power a small LED light continuously. Scale that up to 4 cells wired in series, and you are generating up to 8 watts, which is enough to charge a smartphone at a rate comparable to a standard wall adapter. The materials needed to build a simple window solar charging station include small photovoltaic cells available online for $1 to $2 each, a basic charge controller to prevent overcharging, which costs about $3, and simple wire and connectors totaling another $1. Total cost is under $10 for a functional system. Here is where the industry economics become clear. The residential solar installation market in the United States is worth over $13 billion annually. The average cost of a professionally installed rooftop solar system ranges from $15,000 to $30,000 after equipment and labor. Utility companies collect revenue based on kilowatt hours consumed. Every kilowatt hour you generate yourself is a kilowatt hour the utility does not sell to you. A $5 device that produces even a tiny fraction of your electrical needs sets a psychological precedent. It shows you that electricity generation is not magic. It is physics, and physics does not require a contract. Now let me be very clear about what this device can and cannot do, because Camping Decoded does not make false promises. A small window-mounted solar cell system will not power your entire home. It will not run your refrigerator or air conditioner. What it will do is charge your phone, power a small desk lamp, or run a USB fan during the day using nothing but sunlight that would otherwise be wasted. For someone living in an apartment with no roof access, or someone who wants to reduce dependence on grid electricity for small devices, this is a functional real-world solution. Here is how to build it. Purchase 4 small 6-volt photovoltaic cells online. Wire them in series by connecting the positive terminal of one cell to the negative terminal of the next, until all 4 are linked. This increases the voltage to approximately 24 volts, which a charge controller will step down to the 5 volts needed for USB charging. Position the frame in a south-facing window where it will receive direct sunlight for at least 4 to 6 hours per day. Plug your device into the USB output on the charge controller. You now have a functioning solar charging station built for under $10. I need to be fully transparent. This system will charge devices slowly compared to wall power. It depends entirely on available sunlight. Cloudy days will reduce output significantly. If you live in a northern latitude with limited winter sun, the system will produce less power during those months. This is not a replacement for grid electricity. It is a supplement and a learning tool that proves you can generate your own power without asking permission. Think about what you just learned. Photovoltaic technology has existed since 1839. By 1954, it was viable and reliable. For 70 years, you have been told that accessing solar power requires tens of thousands of dollars in professional installation. Meanwhile, a $5 device built in 1 hour generates real electricity from your window. 4 countries enacted regulations that make building this harder or impossible. Utility companies collect $400 billion a year, selling you electricity that falls from the sky for free. The science has always been available. The access was controlled. If Camping Decoded just handed you a tool the system didn't want you to have, subscribe now and share this. Every share breaks the information barrier a little wider. The next Camping Decoded breakdown goes deeper than anything we have touched, and you are not ready for what is inside.